it.
Hi, I'm Bob Morris, University of Nevada Cooperative Extension, and I'm here at the Research and Demonstration Orchard for the University of Nevada in North Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're going to talk a little bit about pruning those young fruit trees that you've just purchased so that you know how to establish what we call the lower scaffold limbs on these. And that's critical to be done at a time just after planting. This particular tree is, if we check the tags here from Dave Wilson Nursery, is a Babcock white peach, and the rootstock is a Nemegard rootstock. So if we look at this peach tree, you'll notice a couple things. We've staked it with a flexible stake, but the purpose of that stake is to immobilize the root system, at least for the first few months during establishment, so that root system has a really good chance of entering the surrounding soil without getting disturbed too much. So that's all been done. The tree has been painted with a diluted white latex paint, 50-50 with water for sun protection. We have put mulch around the trees to conserve water and encourage root growth in these desert soils. And notice in putting this mulch down, we've kept the mulch about 6 to 8 inches away from the trunk, because if we allow that mulch to hit the trunk and it stays wet, we could lose the tree due to some collar rot on that tree. And the last thing is, notice the chicken wire here. This chicken wire here is, we do have a rabbit problem here with jackrabbits and desert cottontails, so this wire mesh keeps them away for the first 2 or 3 years until they get large enough and the rabbits no longer bother them. So in looking at this tree, we have to figure out where we're going to initiate those scaffold limbs. And so let me show you what we're going to convert this tree into by moving to the next tree over. By making the appropriate cut on that tree, we're going to try to establish the scaffold limbs that you see on this tree that was cut last year, and the scaffold limbs are now fully formed. What we're trying to establish is 4 or 5, perhaps even 6 major limbs coming from that trunk around knee height, so that these will be the fruit-bearing trunks or scaffold limbs for future generations. Now let's move over to this tree. This is a 15-year-old peach that we've kept the height down on, about 6.5 to 7 feet, and into a small area. Notice the scaffold limbs that have originated from the trunk, and so we can see that by making that first cut that we're going to make right now, we're encouraging and we're going to permanently establish these scaffold limbs for future years. So let me move back to this newly planted tree. Here we are back at the tree. We're going to have to make a determination where that cut's going to be made. Generally speaking, around knee height, I'm looking for radial distribution of these limbs around this trunk. This is a beautifully formed trunk, and it gives me a lot of opportunities for selections of scaffold limbs in different directions. But one thing I do know is that some of these lower limbs are just too low, so they're going to be cut out. And even on this one, I'm going to leave that for a while. This is a very weak one. I'm going to get rid of that. This one is probably, we'll see after we're done. Not quite sure. When in doubt, leave it in until we're finished. What we're going to do now is make that cut on the top part for these scaffold limbs. And as I look here, I'm looking at the scaffold limbs that I want to encourage and keep. On this side, the only thing I've got is this one. I'm going to try to keep that one. So my cut and the diameter of this will dictate. I'm going to use a loppers on this. I'm going to make it right above that. In fact, I'm going to make it right above this, like that. Now what I've got are the scaffold limbs originating, actually, as I'm looking around here, a little too high. I'm going to go down a little bit lower in making that cut. I'm going to make that cut here and initiate some new growth. When I did this, there's a bud on this side, and a bud on this side that's probably going to take off because of that cut, because I'm going to initiate new growth in through this whole area. So in this particular case, this one is going to take off, this one, and probably it's going to initiate another couple buds in here. and I'll be able to make next year or even later this year a better selection of what I'm going to keep for scaffold limbs for future generations.